Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Our weekly trip over the Sagamore Bridge, which now takes 2 hours to go down to Route 3 to I-93 to our good friend and colleague, Mr. Julian Edlow of DraftKings. As we talk locals, we talk Patriots, we talk Celtics, maybe sprinkle in a little Red Sox. I doubt it, though. NBA playoffs, play-in games are here. Celtics open up Saturday, I think, against the Hawks, as we all thought that they'd be playing the Heat, of course. Some upsets yesterday, outrights in the NBA. Got 2 games today. NFL draft. The #1 pick has flip-flopped again, but we're going to talk to Julian, and he's going to bring his eyes from the DK side to you. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
You mentioned local, Jeff. When's this bridge thing getting fixed? I did it once a couple of weeks ago. I like popping over to Sandwich. They have some good restaurants, some breweries, but it took forever to get home.
Yeah, and my daughter now, my oldest, living in South Boston, and she makes these, wants us to pick her up, wants to bring her back. I have to look at the GPS to see that it's going to be 2.5, 3 hours, which is usually an hour and 5 trip. And literally, if I want to do that now, I use the Bourne. I go Bourne 495 to 24, and I just loop back.
All right. Got to start looking into that, I guess.
Yes. How you doing today, Julian?
Better than the Red Sox. 7 games back in the division on April 13th. That must be some kind of record.
I was talking to someone yesterday, and I painted him a not-so-rosy picture. Will be probably double digits at the end of the month. I say by Memorial Day, at least 15 games out. I would assume a Chris Sale trip to the IL is coming real soon. It was supposed to be the return of Whitlock and your good friend Bayo that will bolster the starting pitching. But when the Rays get out to a 12-0 start, 11-1 versus the run line, I know you just do a little dabble. And have you dabbled in any baseball yet, Jules?
A little bit. I'm fading Patrick Corbin, as I did last year. That's been going well on first 5 team totals. I'll probably start fading Sale if I'm hoping he sticks around so I can bet against him more, because he's clearly not a real pitcher anymore. Haven't bet as much Rays as I would have liked to, but I did have them plus 900 as the first team to 10 wins. And when you go 10-0, you're not going to lose that. So that worked out. Let's see. I will say the perception on the Red Sox is really down, and rightfully so. But when Bayo gets back into the rotation, he's probably a guy I'm looking to back as they kind of start to play some teams that aren't the Rays, that are just beating up on them every day. When they play some, more neutral competition, you get a guy like Bayo in the rotation. Nobody knows what to expect from him, and you have a perception that the Red Sox are just awful. That might be a time I'm looking to actually get in on the Red Sox.
Yeah, and it's clear. I know we're only a couple weeks in, but it's clear there's some real good teams and there's some real bad teams. And as you know, it doesn't take long for Vegas to start catching up to this no shift, shot clock, or pitch clock, whatever you want to call it, has sped up the process. Owners already getting a little upset. A couple of them have extended the general 7th inning beer stoppage now to the 8th inning. I was one of the first that said it would take a month. It didn't even take a month for that one, Jules.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the faster games. I can't say that I'm watching a ton of it with the point of the NBA season that we're at. But it's on the back burner for me, and I've watched a few games, and some of them have been great pace, and I'm all for that.
Let's switch over to your time of year, the NFL draft, before we dive into some playoff talks here. We had the flip again. The Stroud, what was it, Bryce Young, and then Stroud now back to Bryce. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I kind of expected this. We've been getting movement on first overall picks in all drafts really recently. The Stroud move just didn't make much sense to me. It was only based on Carolina trading for the pick, but I don't know where the assumption that Stroud was the pick came from. It's because Stroud was linked to them potentially at 7. So moving up to 1, like why does that mean it's still for Stroud? That just didn't make a ton of sense to me. Bryce Young is the best player in the draft. If he wasn't 5'10" with the height and weight concerns, we'd be talking about him like a Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, no-brainer type of prospect. He's not, but I don't think that matters quite as much anymore. You saw the plays he made at Alabama. He's played on the biggest stage. And he's, last year played with some, as weak a level of talent on his roster at Alabama as we've seen in a long time. And he still pulled a lot of ridiculous games out. So I think that Bryce Young is the guy in this draft. You can't bet on what you think. You have to bet on the information. But it seems like the information is now more and more pointing to Young, including Adam Schefter kind of hinting towards Young not being available at number 2 for the Texans, which only means one thing.
So the draft really begins, it sounds like, at 3, and I actually even heard something crazy with.
I wouldn't go that far. I think
No?
we have no idea who the second pick is. Are you assuming Stroud goes 2?
Well, that was the assumption. Stroud goes 2, and then, is it? I even heard yesterday, which I think will be comical, the first 4 picks were going to be quarterbacks. So that was Richardson 3 and Levis 4.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me, but I also apparently Houston does not like Stroud, and Houston has the second pick. So I think that the lazy thing that people doing mock drafts that don't have a connection to Houston are doing is saying, okay, now that Young is 1 and we can't put him at 2 to Houston anymore, you put Stroud 2. But that's not based off anything. That's just based off, he's not 1 anymore, so he's going to go 2. There's nothing actually behind that. Whereas the Texans have been completely silent. The rumor is that Levis is their second quarterback on the board behind Young. So if they're not going to get Young, then can they move back to 4, 5, 6, 7 and get Levis? I think there could be some movement towards the top of the board, or they could look to not take a quarterback, which I think would be surprising, but is also realistic. Arizona is probably going to squeeze the most out of their pick and try and move back. That would suit the quarterbacks at the top of the board type of agenda. But I don't think anything is concrete. I think the safest thing to say right now is that Young will go 1. We don't know that, but I think that's the safest thing to say. And then after that, I think there's a lot of figuring out to do. But I think the lazy or uninformed thing to do right now, if you're making a mock draft and switching Bryce Young from 2 to 1, is to put Stroud 2 with absolutely no basis that that's going to happen.
I'm going to go back to what you talked about, the generational quarterbacks. Top of my head, Elway, Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm missing one. Oh, Peyton Manning. Those were the 4 generational quarterbacks. Now I'm hearing next year's quarterback draft was a lot better than this year's quarterback draft. Is the kid from USC Cunningham a potential generational quarterback?
Williams.
Williams, yes.
Yeah, I don't know, generational quarterback. He's going to be, I'd be shocked if he's not the first pick. If you've watched him play, he has some Mahomes to his game. Kind of just pulls plays out of nowhere. Good arm, good feel, good escapability. Makes plays out of nothing. So like, I think he's I think he would be the first pick in this draft, and I think he'll be the first pick in next draft.
So let's go to a Houston. Let's go to an Indy. Let's go to a couple of these other teams that desperately need a quarterback. There's some great edge rushers. There's obviously Willie Anderson. There's some great defensive talents. Not saying someone's going to move Witherspoon up or go that route. My question to you is, could a Houston or someone get creative, move back, and say, we're going to get a steal because a Carter, an Anderson, someone's going to fall to them. And then I'm not saying Houston's going to tank next year, but the odds of them being pretty good aren't that good, and say, hey, we're going to go back in next year.
Yeah, if a team were to do that, it would have to be a team that has, where the front office feels a lot of stability with their jobs. And I think Houston has that to a degree. They can potentially afford to wait. So while it would be surprising to see them pass on quarterback in this draft, if they feel there's a better quarterback in the next draft that they have a chance at getting, especially if they like somebody else outside of Caleb Williams, who's kind of like a fallback as well, then sure. I would also say, and I don't think teams will do this, but I don't see why more teams don't. Like, you can also take the quarterback this year and see if you land Williams next year, and then pick between the two. The Bears didn't do that this year. They moved their pick and stuck with Fields, but I don't see why you couldn't have a Will Levis or a CJ Stroud or whatever, see what they look like for a year, take a quarterback next year, and then move one. If you decide you like the guy you have more than Caleb Williams, you're going to get an absolute haul for your pick and stick with the guy you have. If not, you're always going to get, a year into a CJ Stroud, you're still going to get a fantastic return on him and still be able to take the quarterback you want in the next draft. So I think that there's some ways to get creative with it.
All right, let's go to the locals there. The Pats, whether you're watching the early show with Beetle and Zoe, or, the afternoon show with Felger and Maz, not a lot of talk. But, at 14, I'm enamored, obviously, with the Ohio State wide receiver. I heard rumblings late last week into the weekend that if they went that route, they like Zay Flowers. Now, would they trade down? We know the Pats, they're always trading back. They're hoarding their draft picks. Why pick a first rounder when we can't seem to land a good one, especially when we're trying to find someone offensively? What's your initial, and then we can talk Lamar Jackson, where, hey, you just talked about a 2-quarterback system, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi. Why not go to Baltimore and offer Mac Jones and a couple first-round picks or whatever it is to get Lamar? What are you hearing? What do you see? And what do you think the locals are thinking?
I hear nothing. I have no idea what they're thinking, so my answer probably isn't too productive. They could use some O-line help. I don't know if they'll use their first pick on O-line again. They could obviously use a receiver. They have a terrible track record with that, especially the higher that they take them. But what I do know overall is that Zay Flowers is a guy that is climbing boards. I think there's a perception that a lot of receivers are going to go early in this draft, and I don't think they will. I think receivers are going to slide. But, that still doesn't mean, like, the Patriots could trade back into the 20s for a guy like Zay Flowers if they think receivers are going to slide and still take a receiver early. I think Zay Flowers, who last I looked was somewhere in the plus 350 neighborhood to be the first receiver off the board, has a good chance to do that. Jackson Smith and Jigba, and rightfully so, is getting all the hype. but he's a slot guy. And to take a slot guy, his draft position prop on DK Sportsbook is 12.5, heavily juiced to the over. To take a slot guy that high is a little bit of a reach. Zay Flowers getting a lot of Antonio Brown comparisons in terms of on the field production. So he's a guy, if you're looking for a draft bet, like Zay Flowers to the Patriots, Patriots first pick receiver, Zay Flowers first off the board, Zay Flowers under 22.5. Some combination of those probably sound good to me.
Celtics getting all ready for a little Jimmy Butler, a little South Beach, getting the Carpetone in their bags. That's what the locals were thinking. And then Trey says not so fast. In come the Hawks. Minus 850 was the initial number I saw, and minus 2.5. You can't get the 1.5s. First impressions. Are you going to any of the playoff games? Number one. Number two, how you seeing this one play out?
Yeah, I'll be at some of the playoff games. I'll be working some of the playoff games with DraftKings and NBC Sports Boston. If you're watching the pregame show, and the broadcast, which the games will be broadcasted on NBC Sports Boston. We'll have some pregame and in-game betting segments for you. I'm out of town this weekend, family thing going on. So I'll unfortunately miss game one, which 75 degrees Saturday, 3:30 tip in Boston. That's a nice little day to get some lunch by the water and go to the Celtics game. I'm not thrilled that I'm missing that, but I'll be at the rest of them. I played Celtics laying 2.5 games at minus 120 as soon as it opened. The 850 got bet up to minus 1,000 immediately. The minus 120 on 2.5 games, I think, went up to minus 165 or so. I'm not sure where it sits now. I still don't even hate it at that price. I don't think the Hawks get more than a game. The Celtics probably don't sweep, but they have a great track record against the Hawks. They have all the bigger physical guards to make Young uncomfortable. They match up well with them across the board, really. They have Rob Williams to offset Capella a little bit. Their strength is the wings in Tatum and Brown, and Atlanta doesn't have as many wings to throw out there. So I think that this is at worst, a split in Atlanta. Celtics protect home court, win this one in 5 or less. I don't expect them to maybe look past the Hawks. I'm afraid this one's getting close to a double-digit spread at home. Celtics last 15 games as double-digit favorites, 7-8 straight up. They lose these games outright because they sleepwalk past Washington and Houston in the regular season. I don't think they're going to sleepwalk in a game one at home to start the postseason off. So I think these spots will be a little bit different. I'm probably not going to be playing too many individual games in this round, to be honest. So I just went with a pretty big bet on the laying 2.5 games, just because in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if they're going to slip up game 3 or 4 in Atlanta, where it could be, if they're going to win games 1 and 2 by 8 or by 12. That stuff feels a little harder to get a grasp on. Whereas I feel a lot more comfortable with the grand scheme of things. They're not letting this get past the game 5 at home.
Tonight, Bulls Heat. Bulls shocked the world yesterday. Thunder, big third quarter, hold off the Pelicans. What's your gut feel, or you have any props, anything for Bulls Heat or OKC Minnesota tonight?
So I think that the two home teams coming off losses, see, this is where perception kind of comes into play, because we get the two better teams at home coming off losses where people watched them play poorly against two lower seeded teams going on now another road game, because both the 10 seeds won, and impressing. So everybody's like, whoa, well, the Bulls last night, look at that comeback. OKC, look how good they are. And they are a fun young team. But now you got a quicker turnaround and you got to go on the road again, and you're playing against a better team that's a little angry about a loss that they're coming off of, particularly Miami at home. Miami didn't even have to travel. Play Tuesday night, staying at home, play again Friday night to try and right the ship against the Bulls. I think these are get-right spots for the better teams playing at home, to be honest. More rest. If you look at the tickets on DraftKings, we're getting like OKC's got like 2/3 of the tickets and money. The Heat one is really alarming because the Heat looked awful the other night. So it's 76% of the bets, 82% of the handle on the spread for the Bulls. 57% of the bets for 73% of the handle are just going Bulls outright on the money line. I think Miami bounces back. I think the Timberwolves probably get it together against OKC. I think, particularly with these being the 2 10 seeds that won, who were just on the road and now have to go on the road again, and they won, and everybody's high on those victories with the 2 better teams coming off a loss. This feels like the better teams at home get it done on Friday night. That said, underdogs are 4-0 ATS and 3-1 straight up so far in the play-in. So that trend is either going to continue or this is a good spot to buck the trend.
Lakers, Memphis short favorites to win the series. LeBron, AD, do they have a run in them? Initial thoughts there. Surprised that Memphis is the favorite, or is that kind of the carrot saying, hey, we're taking all the Laker money we can get?
Yeah, I thought the price would be a little closer to a pick. I still think the Lakers are going to win the series, and they may not win game 1, but LeBron has a good track record of feeling series out in game 1 and then making the required adjustments and coming back. So Memphis is growing as a favorite in game 1. Memphis is growing as a favorite in the series. Memphis is taking some sharp money in the series too. That being said, I think being down Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, 2 bigs against a bigger team in the Lakers, is going to be costly. I think that the Grizzlies have been really good at home this season and had troubles on the road. Lakers have been good on the road. So it's going to come down to the Lakers, obviously, stealing 1 or 2 home games. But I think they can do it. I wasn't a believer in the Lakers at the All-Star break. They proved me wrong. They've now won 10 of 12. They didn't look good on Tuesday night, which I'm fine with. They're now going to be off Tuesday to Sunday, so plenty of rest. They played awful in that game. Minnesota was shooting like 50% from 3 until late into that one, and they still survived. I think that the Lakers have a lot of options defensively because of their size. Like, most of their guys can match up. I would say Anthony Davis is going to match up with Jaren Jackson, but the rest of the guys, you can kind of switch all that around. Without Steven Adams on the floor, you don't have to worry about another big guy, and you have guys like LeBron and Vanderbilt that you can switch around on other bigs. I think that the Lakers are going to find a way in this series, and all that public underdog money is going to wind up being right.
Have you made sense yet? I know we haven't officially started the brackets in the West. Did you make sense of it? I mean, Phoenix is the favorite, big favorites over the Clippers. Paul George will be out for the first series, obviously. Have you made sense of, gun to head or anyone watching and listening, finally, who you think will be coming out of the Wild Wild West?
Nope. I still don't think I have to, I guess. Clippers price now. The Clippers price to win this series is what the Clippers price was to win the West at times when we've done this show. So hopefully you listened and laid off. I think the Clippers series price is mispriced. Mm-hmm. I think that they're too large of underdogs. I'm picking Phoenix in the series, but this shouldn't be like a -500 +400 type of range. So one of the ways you can play it, like Clippers +2.5 games is -125. Just get it past game 5 and you're cashing that ticket. That seems like the best bet to me in the series, but I do ultimately expect the Suns to win. I just think from a pricing standpoint, it's way off. I think the most intriguing series on the board is the Kings and Warriors. You have a team that is a small now underdog in game one. Now, that will mean in their 3 home games, they're going to be, 5, 6, 7 point favorites. But you have a team that's on the road to start this series in 2 games, and they're 11-30 on the road this season. And we're just banking on them to flip the switch because they're minus 300 to win the series. That's a lot of respect on brand name for the Warriors, that if you just kind of take the jerseys off, Warriors and Kings, Warriors win the championship every other year, and the Kings haven't been in the playoffs since I was in middle school. Take that brand name off, and the Kings are a good road team winning. They could steal a game in Golden State. I like at the price, I would play the Kings. I haven't done anything yet. I like the Kings in game 1 and think we can maybe get the Warriors in a bounce back game 2. But I would bet the Kings in game 1 to get off to a good start at home. And I think overs in Sacramento. The Kings are, what are they? They're 25-15-1 to the over at home. And the Warriors are one of the best road over teams in the NBA. Their defense stays at home and doesn't travel for some reason. So we'll find out on Saturday night if this flipping of the switch is true. But they said they were going to flip the switch on some of these road trips, and it just didn't happen. So I need to see it to believe it from the Warriors on the road before I can trust it.
Lastly, Julian, give some people some reason to head over to the sports book to download the app who have not, and maybe a prop or two for today or the weekend, something to whet their palate, should I say, Jules?
Flexibility, series spreads. You can parlay these series lines on in NBA postseason. Whatever prop you want on these series. So a lot of flexibility at DK Sportsbook. Obviously, we'll be running promos all postseason, try and get you some profit boosts, etc. All those things that you're not going to find at too many places. Let's see. A play for the weekend. Let me look at the NBA board and try and come up with something that I didn't share, because I guess so. Kings I will be on. Oh, we didn't really talk Cavs Knicks. I do like the Cavs in that series, and the way that I backed them. I think the Cavs are like minus 200 or steeper for the series. So these correlated plays of to win game 1 and to win the series. Sure, it's a parlay, but if you're laying 200 on the Cavs to win the series, you're going to be pissed if they lose game 1. You're probably going to double down on whatever the number is at that stage. So just bet them to win game. They've been great at home all season. Just bet them to take game 1 and win the series. I put it out at minus 115. Now you're cutting the price tag essentially in half to do what they're supposed to do. Protect home court early. That's how they're going to win the series anyway. So I like game 1, Cavs and series, but that's something you can look at for other ones as well, because I think those game 1 and series lines are very correlated. You could do that for the Kings too, if you like the Kings. If the Kings lose game 1 at home to the Warriors, that's going to take on a whole different feel, even with the Kings, that they can't win this series. So if you like the Kings, I would say take them game 1 and series. If you want to get really crazy, I'm not recommending this, but this has been a prop that has worked in the past. You go against LeBron in game 1, but take them for the series. So you could just wait and bet the Lakers for the series after if they did wind up losing. But if you're feeling crazy, if you have a $10 free play sitting around, Memphis game 1, Lakers series double result will get you paid.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because again, I do that a lot here where, for instance, and I was going to bring that up as you were talking Lakers, a lot of people like Memphis in game 1. Okay. So if you do like the Lakers in the series, you would wait, be down 0-1, and then instead of getting plus 110 or 15, you're probably going to be getting around plus 180 or 185, correct?
Yeah, maybe even steeper, and you could split that bet up potentially by just taking some of that and taking some game 2, because they're going to need game 2 at that point.
We want you to have, obviously, a safe trip. We want you to enjoy the weekend. We'll take care of the garden for you over the weekend. The scroll has been going the whole time. Go follow him at Julian Edlow, at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbooks, DK Live, the Unreasonable Podcast. Julian, thank you. If you need to move Tuesday back this week because of the weekend travels, just reach out to me, will you?
We'll figure it out. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. Have a great trip.
Thank you.
The one and only Julian Edlow at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbook. Go check out his podcast. And it's a great podcast there at Unreasonable Odds at DK Live, as I said. 3 o'clock today, myself and Andrew McGinnis at Wager Talk will be talking some NHL as they wrap up the regular season, as they too get ready for the playoffs. And then I'm going to reach out to our buddy Riley to see around 4:30, 5 o'clock if both of us, one of us, or whatever, will be doing the closing bell, a couple NBA games, a few MLB games to talk about as we get closer to the weekend. So with that said, enjoy the rest of the morning. We'll see you later this afternoon. If you're not following us, please do over at EC Sports Invest. Run over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors and subscribe. It's free. And anyone here questioning potential VIP service, you can DM me at EC Sports Invest or send us an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Julian Edlow at DraftKings at DK Sportsbook. We wish everyone a great morning. The locals, get outside. It is beautiful outside. And we will see you soon.